Hey everyone. We at Shotzi wanted to make sure that we provided you with as much information possible to take these wines to the market. So, with that spirit in mind, we're going to go through these three Weingut Gross wines, and I'm going to briefly give you the notes on the wine, how it's made, any relevant talking points, a very brief tasting note, and then I'll mention to you how I would think about them as a retailer or a restaurant buyer, which is where I spent many, many years before my time at Shotzi. So with that, let's get started. So we'll start with the Gross and Gross Jakobi. This is a negociant project for Weingut Gross. Um, with that, this in its true negociant fashion, they source all this fruit from small family farms. Um, and so it's one big family farm is Weingut Gross supporting a bunch of smaller family farms. Some of these farms are as small as just simply weekend warrior farms where they may only farm this vineyard on Saturdays. And so with that in mind, while they encourage organic viticulture, the time it takes to do organic viticulture is not always possible for that type of family farm. So this is the only one in the lineup that is not certified organic, but I would encourage you to realize that while it's not certified organic, they are encouraging people to be organic and simply um, that just might not be possible for people's day-to-day lives doing this as a side project. Anyway, so Jacobi is negociant. This is the only one that sees entirely stainless steel. So the wine is brought in. They do a very strict selection of juice. The wine is fermented with a pied de cuvée. It's basically a starter ferment from juice from the vineyard itself that is used to inoculate the stainless steel. So it's semi-spontaneous. It does use native yeasts, but it is not true spontaneous. And this also does not see malolactic to conversion. So with all stainless, no mallow being stored in Stelvin, you're going to expect a slight CO2 snap to it. This is a very crispy and mineral and linear style of Sauvignon Blanc. The nose itself is exactly what you would expect from that. Tons of citrus tones, ranging from the crisp and tart lemon and lime all the way to slightly riper cara orange, grapefruit, and tangerine peel. The apple is crisp Granny Smith apple tones. There's a very slight florality. And of course, it's Sauvignon Blanc, so we're looking for pyrazines. It's not super overt. It's simply like a back of the palate note at an herbal tone. And I really think it starts to highlight the minerality of the Südsteiermark anyway. Very, very appetizing. My mouth is watering just thinking about it. Yeah, tons of acidity, lots of mouth watering happening. That citrus tone still sticks. That tropical citrus tone is still here. There's actually a little bit of a fleshy character that leans slightly into like a hint of more tropical fleshy fruits like papaya. Um, Still that crisp grains with apple, really taut linear palate. Again, really highlighting minerality, really crunchy. That pyrazine note is very, very. I like if I didn't tell you it wasn't there, I don't think people would find it necessarily. Um, Very refreshing and mineral. This price point should make it a very easy by the glass for most people that are pouring Sauvignon Blanc by the glass. It's very approachable in that regard. The style is is not quite as overt and intense as New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs tend to be. I would say it's a bit more assertive than Sancerre. It has tons of mouthwatering acidity, as well as like that really bright citrus tone. So I think that this has a broad appeal to both of those drinkers. Stylistically, of course, because it doesn't see oak. This is not for like Bordeaux Blanc drinkers, but it's a delicious and refreshing by the glass wine. It would go great with anything that's going to be first course, especially like crudos or seafood towers or places that encourage a seafood sort of appetizer. Very much just like a squeeze of lemon. Wherever you can imagine a squeeze of lemon on a dish, this is going to be great. Retail wise, this is going to be under 30. This should be under upper 20s, mid to upper 20s as far as markup. This is easy. I think that retail, like this label being an old farmer's calendar, gives retailer something to talk about. This reflects the vintage and changes every vintage. It says Sauvignon Blanc on it, so people know what they're getting. I think that, if people are curious about Sauvignon Blanc and want to try something from a region that is classic Sauvignon Blanc, but lesser known, this is a great option for those people. Um, yeah, retailers that like to carry a good selection to give people something a little different, this is a great way to go. It might require a very quick conversation, but I think, once this gets in people's mouths, it's an easy sell. Now we'll move on to Bergwein. So Bergwein is the beginning of the estate wines at Weingut Gross. All the estate wines are made the same way. So that means they are truly spontaneously fermented in large 600 to 2400 liter neutral Austrian oak barrels. They see an extended élevage. Both of these wines see 12 months on gross lees, followed by 6 months on fine lees before bottling. And that 6 months is usually in the tank. And it sees sulfur only at bottling. Um, and maybe there's no filtration either. And so Bergwein itself, Bergwein is actually legally defined as coming from steep sloped vineyards at 26 degrees or more. That is the legal Austrian definition. For Johannes, it has a bit more meaning to it. Bergwein symbolizes the hard work it takes to farm steep sloped vineyards. It also um, means tradition. And so, with that in mind, Bergwijn in Johannes's mind is a glimpse at what his um, grandparents and great grandparents may have made. So this is true like history in a bottle for Weingut Gross. The nose itself, because we're seeing that neutral oak, you expect a broader nose and a broader palate. I think that's very much present. The citrus tones get riper, or they get less. The citrus tones shift. So rather than being really ripe and tropical, we are more at lemon lime, and the fruit palette shifts. Since this sees malolactic conversion, we're seeing less Granny Smith, more yellow apple, and more pear, and more like pomaceous tree fruits. The florality is a bit more present too. You start to pick up some white flower, and the pyrazine is still just like a note. Minerality begins to come through. You sense some like a light creaminess that you're sort of anticipate on the palate. And the palate still has tons of mouthwatering acidity, but it's broader textured, which you expect, of course, because of neutral oak and mallow. More like mouth coating. Don't want to go so far as to say creamy, but it does have like a bit of a mouth coating texture. Um, the acid is still here from that citrus tone, lemon and lime tones, as well as that slightly fleshier apple. This really starts to give a sense of soil. So this is where you start to see limey marl soils that the region is known for. And it just tightens up and pronounces itself on the palate very much so. Um, Restaurant wise, this gives a slightly broader application than Jakobi because of that oak. And so like this would work very well in the same sense of anything you would put a squeeze of lemon or lime on, this would go well with. But I think with that hint of oak, you can start to move deeper into the meal with things that see a bit more Maillard reaction, a little bit more browning. Um, I wouldn't go necessarily full on into like steak or anything, but I think you could really apply um, this to slightly richer entrees. Like fish with cream sauce would be great. Um, as far as retail goes, I think this requires maybe a slightly more conversation because the label's not as playful. But this is where you have it's a very similar price point to Jacobi. In my mind, retailers should have one or both of these wines, depending on their clientele. This would be for a Sauvignon Blanc drinker that's a little bit more, maybe a bit more serious. Somebody likes more Sancerre, like old school Sancerre, um, rather than like fresh and zippy stainless Sancerre or even New Zealand. So this is for drinkers that are a bit more curious as to like a little bit more of an old school style of Sauvignon Blanc. Um, Delicious wine, easy. Again, very similar, not the same price point to Jacobi. So sub 30 retail, easy, 28 18 to 22 by the glass price point. All right, and finally, Ehrenhausen. Ehrenhausen is the village wine. So if we have Weingut Gross ascribes to the European hierarchy model, so where you have a regional wine, and then the village wine, and then the single vineyard wines, the Rieden in this case, and Ehrenhausen is their village. So this is where opak soils really, really shine. Opak and some volcanic soils. So Johannes mentioned that they're very fortunate to have opak layered with volcanic soils where they're at, and this starts to show here. They also are selecting vineyards that have high content of active limestone. And so we're leaning more and more into site here, obviously, but with soil as well. So we're expecting a very pronounced minerality on the palate. It's made like all the other estate wines. So, neutral spontaneous fermentation into neutral barrels for an extended élevage. No filtering with just a drop of sulfur at bottling to prevent oxidation. So we're getting that lemon lime is still there, a little bit of grapefruit, and we're shifting into a riper fruit profile. So more of a fleshy, pomaceous note, slight hint at like the very beginnings of tropical fruit fleshiness, slightly more pronounced creaminess, I think, from the mallow, and quite just like I'm expecting rocks. Like I feel like I'm just being like crushed. I feel like limestone is being uh, seizing my glass. Yeah, tons of minerality. This just is minerality in your face. We have much more intensity here of the everything. Lemon lime is more focused. That fruit tone is more focused. The slight hint of tropicality is more focused. Florality is present, a little bit broader texture. Again, like a mouth coating texture really gives it some weight. This again is neutral oak, so I wouldn't really put this into the realm of Bordeaux Blanc, still in the realm of old school Sancerre, where they're using neutral oak. And I would use that sense when I apply it to restaurants as well. This does have more weight, like I said, so you can really get into an entree here and a more Maillard reaction. Like I want crispy chicken skin with this, like so a great roasted chicken with this would be awesome. Imagine like a great, really rich fish dish with really crispy skin, again highlighting that browning. It gives the oak something to play with and gives the acid something to cut. And so very, very tasty. Really good wine. You can really sense having these next to each other, the focus on the soil and the site and that is happening at Weingut Gross. As far as retail goes, this would retail in the like mid 30s. So it's not a crazy jump. But I think in my experience, that tends to be a price point that determines volume versus like a conversation. And so this does take a small, brief conversation that, this is worth the splurge. I very much think that for being a very like a village specific Sauvignon Blanc from Europe, with the STK band on the label or on the foil. There's a lot of quality here for about, mid 30s. I think once you show that to people and put it in their faces, they're going to get that. This is a beautiful wine. So with all that in mind, I hope that is some good brief notes to get you on with your day and show these wines in the market. As always, feel free to refer to our website for extended producer profiles. If you want shorter information, let us know. And of course, all the details about the wines are also listed on the website. We are here to support you, so if you have questions, please reach out to us at Shotzi Wines, and we'll happily get you all the information you have. Thank you very much, and good luck out there.